Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my January wrap up. Why do I now feel like I'm saying January? I've spent too long with Americans. My January wrap up. It wasn't the best reading month I've ever experienced, but it definitely wasn't awful. I read 16 books, 5 of those being via audio and 11 reading physically. Over those 16 books, I read 6,589 pages and my average rating was a 3.3 star. So I had 1 1-star book, 2 2-star books, 2 2.5 stars, 3 3 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 4 4 stars and 2 5 stars. So really could have been much worse. I was also with Cole from the 1st to the 8th of January, had a horrifying journey home on the 9th and 10th. So really I was solidly reading. The 8th and 9th I had the horrifying journey. So I was only solidly reading from the 10th to the 31st. So I don't think 6,500 pages is that bad at all. So without further ado, I'm going to start from my worst rated books and make it up to my 5 stars. So the 1-star book I read was Stags by M.A. Bennett, and I have already made a note of this on my worst books of 2022 sheet. It's definitely going to make it there. I don't see how I could read much that is worse. This is a book about a private school where our main character goes on a scholarship, and there is kind of an elite group of friends who she's getting bad vibes from, and she gets invited away on a hunting, shooting, fishing weekend. And yeah, it says on the front, one deadly weekend. We know what's gonna happen. Just the elite friends and the outcasts are brought in. It's so obvious. I found the whole book so dumb, and I genuinely just lost time in my life reading this. I gained absolutely nothing. I did rant about it a lot in that weekly vlog, so make sure you're checking out my vlogs for my very detailed on-the-spot opinions, but this book was just awful. Next, moving on to the 2-star books, one that I had was Would Like to Meet by Rachel Winters. This is a adult contemporary romance situation, and I can't even tell you what went on, to be quite honest. It has gone from my brain. The book itself was so dull. I didn't engage with the main character at all. There must have been some redeeming moments for me to not give it a 1 or 1.5 star. I at least gave it a 2. I must have cared at some point, but really I did not care enough to bring you concise opinions now, so I guess I didn't remember anything. Very forgettable. The next 2-star book I have is The Unheard by Nikki French, which actually matches my outfit today. So this one I didn't want to give a horrific review because I was actually gifted it by Tandem. Yeah, I was on the tour with Tandem to kind of celebrate this book when it came out in paperback. I believe it was published first last year and it's just come out in paperback. This is about Tess and her daughter Poppy. One day Poppy comes home and she's drawing weird drawings. She's saying like square words that nobody really knows where she's heard them from, that are very aggressive, and Tess is just concerned about what her daughter is feeling, what she's seen and what she could potentially know. And this whole book follows some really crazy accusations being made by Tess about what could be going on, and really I don't want to say more than that because I feel like it spoils any sort of enjoyment. Unfortunately I had to give this 2 stars because even though I guessed the ending, I thought it was very, very easy to guess. I don't feel like I just guessed it because I've read a lot of thrillers now, or mysteries, I guess. Thriller, mystery, not even sure. I wasn't very thrilled. The ending was so disappointing. There was a teeny tiny plot twist that was even obvious. So I feel like the first 200 pages, maybe not 200, first 150 pages, I was very intrigued. I wanted to know what was going on, but it's a chunky book. The intrigue dropped. The ending was exactly what I thought it was, and yeah, would not recommend this one. Next, we're moving on to my 2.5 star books. The first one being Death Row by Michelle Lyons. This was actually my book club pick for the month for Chloe's Crime Scene Corner, so I was very upset not to love it. But this is a book written by Michelle herself about her life as an execution witness in Huntsville Prison in Texas. Some of this was really good. There was information about certain prisoners and how they reacted to the kind of event of their execution. There was some stuff about last meals that was interesting, and that last little chapter about somebody whose face she remembered but couldn't remember who they were. That one was very disturbing and I felt a bit choked up. But really, the writing of this really, really let it down. Michelle is a journalist and I expected amazing things from her writing style and like techniques and stuff. But really, I could not care less about what she was saying because the writing was just so, not even jarring, it just wasn't, it didn't flow. I wasn't enjoying my time reading it, and I nearly dropped my book, that's why I just shuddered. I didn't really enjoy my time reading it, and I wanted to learn more about these individuals and the cases and the victims, but really it was just the bureaucracy in the background of jobs within a prison system. And yeah, I didn't love this one, so sorry to everybody in the book club that I made read this. My next 2.5-star book actually breaks my heart a little, and that is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I did not like this book. This was gifted to me by Rhiannon, and it was actually her pick in my January TBR for a book she thought I would give 5 stars. And I see why. There are vampires, there is a serial killer on the hunt for the main character. We're in 1872 New Orleans, like we have all of the tropes that I would love. But I did not like this book. The writing style was very, very hard for me, and I felt like it was a whole lot of nothing. Again, this is quite a chunky book, and there was a lot of just nothing. I didn't feel tense when the serial killer was around. I wasn't invested in how we were going to catch him, and I wasn't invested in the big reveal of who it was. So yeah, sadly, I didn't like this book. There wasn't enough smut in it. I thought there was going to be a bit more smut. I'm so sorry, because we are introduced to a love interest who is bad and brooding and she shouldn't be interested in. So I thought we were going to get a little bit more of that. But I didn't really care for the mystery of the serial killer and hunting him down. I didn't really care for the relationship, and the main character was a little bit irritated. So sorry, Rhiannon, I really wanted to like this. Next we have one that I don't physically have in front of me, and that is 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. So I took this to America with me, and I said that if I didn't finish it by the time I was leaving, I wasn't bringing it home. I didn't have the room in my bag and I wasn't that invested. But when I got home, I found out the audiobook was on SCRIBD, so I listened to it and I actually gave this book 3 stars. This is the book of characters whose names are gone from my brain, but we have a main character whose son has just committed a school shooting, and his ex-best friend is the daughter of the main character's ex-best friend. So they're all linked together. And the ex-best friend, in terms of the mothers, is the judge on the school shooting trial. It's all linked, and this one was really, really interesting. It was interesting to see how Jodi Picoult took the opinion of a mother of a school shooter, and that actually links on to, in March, for my book club, we're going to be reading A Mother's Reckoning, which is written by the author of Dylan Klebold, one of the Columbine shooters. So I'm very intrigued to read that off the back of this. But this book was far too long. It was over 500 pages and I did stop caring. So yes, obviously I was listening to the audio, but I just started not caring about what was going on and I just wanted it to be over a little bit quicker. I did like how the author told it, the writing style, the audiobook was very, very good. The narrator was good. But I just stopped caring a bit too soon on this one, so it got stuck at 3 stars. Another audiobook I listened to, but I do have the physical book to hold up, is The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. So this is the sequel to The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which was one of my favourite books of all time, and then I re-listened to it in December, still gave it 5 stars or 4.5 stars, because I wanted to finally read the sequel. So I listened to the audiobook of this, and 3 stars, it just felt very flat in comparison. We're following Felicity, who is the sister of Henry from the first book, and it's all about her aim to become a doctor, but she's not taken seriously because she's a woman, and we're back in the 1800s, I believe. In the 1700s, I am... Okay, we're going to stick with the 1700s, I think we're in. So women were not taken seriously to be doctors back then. And just, yeah, after reading the first book with all of the drama and the romances, and it was flat. It was flat. And the final 3-star book I have to talk about is Olive by Emma Gannon. So this was Rachel's pick for a book I would give 5 stars, and sadly I gave it 3. I didn't really like this one, but I can appreciate why other people like it. So we're following Olive, who is in a group of friends. She's split up from her long-term boyfriend because the long-term boyfriend wanted children and she just wasn't sure that was something she was ever going to want. So their relationship ends, and this book is all about Olive coming to terms with not wanting children. To me, it was just a little bit too heavy on the wanting children side, and I know Rachel is like clenching with frustration right now, but I thought this was going to be lots more about this group of friends and their careers and their relationships with each other, and yes, let's throw kids in, their marriages. But it really felt more like just analysing reasons for and against having children. And that just wasn't really what I wanted it to be. And I actually don't think it highlights that from the blurb and what I knew about it going in. So I just didn't really love it. I also felt like the relationships in here, the friendships, were very, very forced. They didn't feel natural at all. But I have heard other people saying they completely disagree with me. But it just kind of felt like a group of people thrown together for the sake of it. And yeah, I just didn't really like this. But I gave it 3 stars because I did speed through it. And I can see why other people like it. I just don't. This next book is where I absolutely get taken down and lose 50% of my subscribers. I gave The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood 3.5 stars. I didn't really like it that much. I liked it, don't get me wrong, but I do not understand the 5-star hype around this book. This is about, again, Olive, who is a PhD student. She's some form of scientist. She does experiments. And she has a fake dating situation with one of the professors at the college she's at, and I just didn't care. I really tried hard to understand why other people like it and are swooning over it, but I could not get the appeal. I kind of liked Adam, who is the professor. His character was very interesting, but Olive was just so irritating and whiny, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm sorry, everybody. I will stop talking now. But the other 3.5-star book I read is This Is Why We Lie by Gabriella Lepore. This is an arc I was sent a little while ago now. The book actually came out at the end of September last year, but I finally got around to it. I actually started reading this the night before my flights to America, but then left it accidentally in my parents' house and couldn't finish it. So it took me from the 17th of December to the 12th of January to read this book. But really, I read it in about 3 sittings. This is about the body of Colleen, who is the kind of bitchy, mean girl, popular girl at school. Her body washes up towards a beach and is found by Jenna and Adam. Jenna goes to the all-girls private school that Colleen actually went to with her, and Adam goes to a reform school for teenage boys. This whole book is about trying to understand who killed Colleen and why. To be honest, that is pretty much it. It is a very easy book to read. It's very quick. I found it just comforting to sit and smash 100 pages in this like it was nothing. But at the same time, I limited it to 3.5 stars because was it good? I'm not sure. But I would definitely recommend it for an easy, enjoyable time to read. Moving on to the 4-star books, we have 2 audiobooks to talk about, so I'll talk about those first. The first one being Pretty Little Killers by Daleen Berry. This is the true crime story of the murder of Skylar Neese, and it is horrific. It is horrifying that this happened to a young girl, and it pains me to think about it. So I'd heard about this case, but I wanted to learn more, so I listened to the audiobook on SCRIBD, and Skylar was basically murdered by her 2 best friends, and they protested their innocence for a very long time. Saying that, did they ever admit to it? Did both of them ever admit? But it goes into lots and lots of detail about the friendship, things that were happening, lies that the girls told, and this case just horrifies me so much. Listening to the audiobook was great. I felt like it was very informative, and if you love true crime, then I would recommend this one, so I gave it 4 stars. Next, I listened to P.S. I Love You by Cecilia Ahern, which is another one of the books I took to America. There are car headlights on my face. It's another one of the books I took to America and said that if I didn't read it by the time I left, I wasn't bringing it home, and I didn't read it, so I listened to the audiobook on SCRIBD, and I really enjoyed this one. This is the same story as the movie with what's-his-face in it. Gerard Butler. It's got Gerard Butler in it. And I love that movie. It's one of my guilty pleasures. I don't want to know how many times I've watched it. And I was quite concerned that I was just going to know the whole story and I'd give this book 3 stars and I'd move on with my life. But I really, really liked this book. It was very different, like insanely different from the movie, and that was just great for me. I probably enjoyed it more, if I'm quite honest. I liked the storyline better and I would have liked to have seen that in the movie, but hey ho. It was a really nice fun time. Some of the emotional parts really hit me because this is about Holly and Jerry all of a sudden dies of cancer. He's diagnosed of cancer very, very suddenly, and he knows he doesn't have long to live. So he actually writes Holly some letters to open every month. I think she gets 10 letters because he's quite sure about when he's going to die. So he times them so that she has something to look forward to each month opening his letter. And very emotional, made me tear up, but not full out, like full sob. So 4 stars. Next we have The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which was Chelsea's pick for my 5-star reads, and I gave it 4. This is about a group of older people in a retirement village who form the Thursday Murder Club to solve cold cases, and all of a sudden there is a murder on their doorstep and they set out to solve it. They get involved with the police, and oh my god, the mystery itself isn't very thrilling. It's just kind of boring, but the characters make this book. You've got Joyce and Elizabeth, who are nosy old women, and genuinely reading it, they were so endearing, and I love learning about their friendship and how they interacted with people. It always made me giggle with a little old lady bossing around the police. There's even a scene, I won't spoil it, but there is a scene with a dead body that they involve themselves in, and Elizabeth politely informs the police that they are not going to be arresting them, and it's so great. The characters are lovely and I had a thoroughly good time reading this. Next, the final 4-star book, and the final book I got to that was on my 5-star predictions, TBR. Actually, just saying that, Becca did recommend Crush by Tracy Wolfe, which will be featured in February. So yeah, this is the last one I got to of that TBR, and it is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which I gave 4 stars, and it was picked by Victoria. This one I annotated, and I had such a good time annotating it. That was probably my favourite part of reading this book. I did fully write in it and list my thoughts when things happened. I loved the setup of this book, getting to know the characters and their friendships, but unfortunately the middle just felt like a whole lot of nothing. Nothing really happened, and if it would have continued at the pace of the start of this book, it would have been an easy 5 stars, but I just felt like it really dropped, and the scary stuff wasn't really scary. I was more disturbed by, I will just say, the tapeworm for people who've read it. That was disturbing, but it wasn't scary. So I ended up, I was going to annotate scary stuff, and then I actually wrote creepy next to it because creeped was probably as scared as I got. I wasn't actually scared. And finally, we move on to my 2 5-star reads of January, which were both rereads. So I knew they were going to be 5 stars going in, but I had some good books to reread this month. The first being City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, which I also annotated. So this one I was highlighting and writing my thoughts in as I read, and I'm reading this as part of Becca's By the Angel Along, where she's going through and reading all of Cassandra Clare's works. So January, it was time for the first book, City of Bones, and I absolutely love this book with my whole heart. It's one of my all-time favorites, and yeah, I had a thoroughly good time annotating it. It's always so much more funny than I think it's gonna be. Like, there's the scene with the, I'll just say Jace says we would never have all fit, and if you've read it or watched the movie or the TV show, I think it does feature in every adaptation. It's so funny. It's so funny, and I will thoroughly recommend this book. It's not the best literary masterpiece out there, but this is just a staple book in my life, and I love it every time I read it. And the final reread and my favourite book of the month was Crave by Tracy Wolfe. This was actually on my favourites list of the year last year, and I I know why. It's so good. It's so comforting and easy to read. This is about a school for supernaturals, but our main character goes there. Her parents die and her uncle is the head teacher, so she is sent there and she doesn't know when she gets there that it's a school for the supernatural. There are Twilight references in this which are just hilarious. Everything is so easy to read and you speed through this book like it's 200 pages. It is one of the most comforting, cringy, cheesy books I've read in a while, and I love it so much. So I was reading this one because Becca asked me to read Crush, which is book number 2, as my 5-star predictions, but I couldn't quite remember enough about how this ended, so wanted to reread it knowing I'd love it. And I'm reading Crush in February, so you'll have to hold fire to see whether any of my 5-star predictions were actually 5 stars. So there we have it. Those are the 16 books I read in February. I've been talking for a very long time, so I'm actually going to wrap this up now, but please do let me know if you've read any of these books and you have any of the same opinions, different opinions. Let's all please not hate on me for the love hypothesis. I'm so sorry, it's just my opinion. But yes, on that note, thank you very much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!